Hi, Paul Slatkus, good news, and I have great news to share today. I'm with Dr. Jennifer House. Do I have that right?
Yes, you do.
H-O-W-S-E,
House.
the president, the March of Dimes. What an honor. Congratulations. What did you announce here today?
Today we announced a landmark in corporate philanthropy. We announced that Kmart has reached the $100 million contribution mark for the March of Dimes. We've been in partnership with Kmart for 29 years, and this was the year when the $100 million was reached.
Now, we're here at the Roosevelt House, and President Roosevelt had something to do with the March of Dimes, right? I mean, the name has some bearing. Is that so?
Well, Franklin Roosevelt created the March of Dimes in 1938 by executive order, and he was determined there be a cure for polio. And 10 billion dimes later, that's just exactly what the March of Dimes did through investing in good science. And Kmart, as our partner for 29 years, has made a number of scientific breakthroughs that have improved the health of children, has made a number of those breakthroughs possible.
We're going to broadcast the whole outreach here today because this is a special for good news. This is our special. This is what we care about. We're very involved with children in general. So we just did a major project for Text for Baby, and overall, you know, the more we educate our youth, our future mothers, right, about health and concerns, maybe we'll do a little better on it all.
I think that's absolutely right, and for women who are thinking about getting pregnant, go to the March of Dimes website and learn all the things that you need to do to have a healthy pregnancy.
Tell me about yourself. How come you're involved with this? And you've been involved for some years, correct?
Yes, I have. You know, I started out my career in the field of rehabilitation, working with developmentally disabled kids and their families, and I really wanted to shift gears and go into prevention. And the March of Dimes is all about prevention, primary prevention, making sure that we stop disease and disability before it occurs through good science and good public health.
This is April, they say, you know, we have a lot of months and they're called different things, but this is actually Volunteer Month. How can somebody volunteer with the March of Dimes?
Best way to volunteer for March of Dimes is to go on our website and just choose how you would like to give or donate or participate.
Okay, and what way could somebody participate in?
Well, the very best thing for April would be to join March for Babies. You can just go on the web, marchforbabies.org, and sign up for this outdoor walking event near you. We have 1,000 to choose from across the country. That's the very best way to get involved right now.
Even in the Times Square, we did it last year, and we'll do it this year, the Times Square walk down to the Kmart store, right?
That's right.
That was a very special event. Well, you're doing wonderful things. Keep it up. However we can help support what you're doing, it's a big honor. Last question, what's good news for you, Doctor?
Good news for me will be when March for Babies surpasses that $110 million mark this year.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank
for
you.
sharing.
Thank you. Thank you so much, President Rabb. You did a wonderful, wonderful job of welcoming all of us, and we appreciate it. And let's hear it for the beautiful work of restoring the Franklin and Eleanor Roosevelt House.
In this room, actually, this is one of the only changes that we made to the building to get the signature. This was actually the backyard. We had to excavate the whole backyard to create this room, and you can't get a backhoe in the backyard of the City townhouse, so all the dirt had come out by hand. So shovels went out, and we weren't that popular in the neighborhood for a while, but we were able to create this beautiful room with the four freedoms and the wonderful photos of the Roosevelts, and welcome you here to enjoy it.
Thank you again. And I'll just say to add to history that the March of Dimes Foundation was the recipient of one of the Four Freedom Awards in the last decade, and we're very, very proud of that accomplishment as well. So, a special good morning to each and every one of you. Welcome to the historic Eleanor and Franklin Roosevelt House. And welcome to a very historic occasion where we come together to honor a phenomenal feat of corporate philanthropy. And that is the $100 million fundraising achievement of Kmart. So let's stop right there and look at it is a story of finding strength in adversity. You know that at the age of 39, right at the beginning, really, of what was to become a phenomenal and productive career of political and diplomatic leadership, that he was stricken with polio. What President Raab left out of her accounting was that after Roosevelt was stricken with polio, he lay in a bedroom upstairs in this house for 6 months, trying to find his strength, trying to overcome the depression that engulfed him when he came to understand that he would never be able to use his 2 legs again, and that he would always have braces and crutches if he was going to be able to move. He went through depression. He went through a great deal of grief and sadness. Eleanor was his constant companion. She listened. She supported him. She offered encouragement. And after that 6 months of anguish, Franklin Roosevelt strapped on each leg 9-pound metal braces, got his crutches under his armpits, got up out of his bed, and walked into his future. And he walked into the future of creating the United States that we all appreciate and enjoy today. But that transformation occurred in this very house, in a small bedroom on the back of the house, so that he could look out onto the garden that used to be here. In 1938, it was 6 years after he had won the presidency, after his mama had met him on those front steps and said, "Son, this is the proudest day of my life," never mind the grandchildren, the wife, "this is the proudest day of my life." And 6 years into his presidency, Franklin Roosevelt signed an executive order that created the March of Dimes. Now remember, our country was in the midst of a depression. And Franklin Roosevelt had a vision that the fear of polio, which was striking every community in the United States, needed to be converted to a fight to conquer polio. So he signed an executive order and he created the March of Dimes. And he in turn asked every American to consider giving a dime to fight polio. And he went on the radio and he asked Americans to send their dimes to their local post office. And then he asked the postmasters general to gather up those dimes in burlap bags to send them to the United States Treasury. And through that, 10 billion dimes were collected. And those 10 billion dimes were then transformed into a network of scientific inquiry and discovery, unparalleled, that resulted in the discovery of the virus that caused polio, and then resulted in the conversion of that virus into a vaccine that conquered polio. But it was one thing to find a vaccine that conquered polio and to test it in a dozen of Jonas Salk's family members and himself. That was one thing. It was quite another thing to mount a field trial that would demonstrate that that vaccine was both safe and effective. There was no FDA then. There was not a National Institutes of Health then. The field trial was conducted because March of Dimes and its then President Basil O'Connor asked March of Dimes volunteers in every community, in church basements and field houses and neighbors' houses, to help conduct the field trials, to recruit kids to come and receive the vaccine. Long story short, fast forwarding, that vaccine was proved to be safe and effective in 1955, and from that point forward, the polio that was the fear of neighborhoods and the fear of parents was conquered. And the March of Dimes, because it had depended upon the dimes from everyday people, made a decision, think about this, made a decision that that vaccine, which the March of Dimes owned, well, we could have taken a patent on the vaccine, an exclusive patent, and sold it from now till kingdom come. But the March of Dimes made a decision in the name of the people that the vaccine would be free. The vaccine would be available to the people who paid for the vaccine to be discovered. And that is another remarkable part of the March of Dimes history. So there were several of those kinds of lessons learned. One is science in service to people. Perfect example. Another lesson learned was the power of vaccine to roll back infectious disease. Another lesson learned was the power of volunteers to make a difference by engaging in a cause and to set their minds to a goal. And another lesson that was learned, which is really what we celebrate today, is the power of democratized philanthropy. Philanthropy is not just the purview of the wealthy. Philanthropy belongs to all the people. Philanthropy belongs to all the people. That's the lesson from Franklin Roosevelt and the March of Dimes. And that lesson has carried forward with 29 years of partnership between the March of Dimes and Kmart. That lesson has carried forward in your organization, in Kmart, with your associates and with your customers. That lesson has carried forward in Kmart like no other corporation, no other company in America. Today we celebrate corporate philanthropy, the people's philanthropy at its finest. We celebrate a benchmark of $100 million raised on behalf of the March of Dimes over the last 29 years. So Kmart, you are a legacy of FDR. Your generosity, your corporate philanthropy, your people's philanthropy is a legacy, a living legacy to Franklin Roosevelt. And we have a very special plaque, which you can see. It's called Kmart You Rock. Now we think that FDR would like that. He had a great sense of humor. For those of you who are history buffs, he had a great sense of humor, and we think he would like, in the spirit of the times, that we proclaim Kmart You Rock. And this signage is, I believe, in all the Kmart stores, so that associates and customers all over America can celebrate this amazing, amazing feat. 29 years is a long time for a partnership. It's a long time for a marriage. It's a long time for a friendship. It's a long time for a partnership. And we celebrate the partnership. Since Kmart began fundraising on behalf of the March of Dimes, we have done some very phenomenal work. March of Dimes discovered surfactant. Surfactant is a substance that helps premature babies be able to breathe rather than suffering, and in many cases not surviving their premature birth. Surfactant administered at the time of birth saves babies' lives. Some of you may remember that John Kennedy and Jackie had an infant son called Patrick. He was born premature. He did not make it. If he had had surfactant, he would have survived. That's how important your contributions to our work really are in everyday life. You heard a little bit about folic acid, a vitamin, a B vitamin that prevents spina bifida. Well, the scientists knew about it, but women did not. Women of childbearing age did not know this. It was your contributions and your work and your support, your belief in us, that let us launch a national folic acid education campaign to help teach women about the importance of taking folic acid early in pregnancy. You've heard of newborn screening. Newborn screening is a simple procedure done in the hospital. It's a little tiny peel stick, a little tiny drop of blood that is then analyzed with supercomputers to determine if babies have a terrible metabolic condition. And the good news is, if it is determined that babies are born with a terrible metabolic condition, it's treatable if it's detected in the first 48 hours of life. March of Dimes launched a national newborn screening advocacy program, and now no matter where a baby is born, no matter what state in which a baby is born, they get a full array of newborn screening. And that's because you believed in us. That's because Kmart believes in us, and you believe in the kind of work that we do. Our big challenge today is preterm birth. You're going to be hearing more about that very soon. Preterm birth is a complicated problem. It's a problem that affects over 500,000 of our babies every year in the United States of America. In fact, we have one of the highest rates of preterm birth in the world in this country. That's how serious it is. It costs a lot of money. Excess cost associated with hospitalization and treatment for preterm babies costs our nation an additional $26 billion a year in healthcare costs. So we've got a financial imperative as well. But most of all, babies suffer. Some babies do not survive. Some babies have lifelong disabilities, and their families all suffer when a baby is born preterm. That's the challenge that we've taken on for this decade. That's the challenge that we've taken on for this part of the new century. We are going to find causes of preterm birth, and we are going to prevent preterm birth in this country. And we are going to succeed because you believe in us, Kmart, and because we are the March of Dimes, and we persevere until we find the answers. It's not going to be easy. We've developed already some very special interventions that are working, and that will help reduce some of the preterm birth in our country. We funded and piloted a program called Healthy Babies Are Worth the Wait. And it's a great problem, and it addresses the preterm risks that we know how to fix. It addresses the preterm risks that we know how to fix. And that program is being rolled out all over the country. 12 states, as we speak, in the last 10 days, have signed on to adopt that program, and many more are coming along. So that will help a lot. That'll probably solve 30 to 40% of the problem. The other half of the problem, we do not understand why those babies are born preterm. We need better science. So the March of Dimes has developed a new model of science. Now stay with me on this one. It's called transdisciplinary research. Don't go away in your mind. Stay right with me. Transdisciplinary research. What is it? Transdisciplinary research means scientists from all different disciplines come together on a regular basis, and they invent new ways to go about discovering the causes of preterm birth. They talk with each other, they develop hypotheses, they go back to their laboratories and their work, they get some data, and they come back together again, and they share the data, and they continue to find new ways to investigate the question. Transdisciplinary research. We have launched, with your help, and thank you again, Kmart, for believing in us, we have launched the first transdisciplinary research center in the world. It's also the first center in America. It's at Stanford University, and we are extraordinarily proud of this center. And that is why it gives me very great pleasure to announce today that March of Dimes will recognize your unparalleled corporate generosity and achievement by naming a $1 million transdisciplinary research grant in honor of Kmart. And it's just a matter of synchronicity that as we are gathered here right now in Stanford, at Stanford University every Wednesday from 8 to noon, the scientists gather in something that they're calling the Prematurity Roundtable. They gather every Wednesday. They talk with each other. They share data. They share information. They talk about ways that they are going to lift the health of humanity and find the answers to preterm birth. So as we are right here, even with the 3-hour time difference, this is the morning that the scientists are gathered together, and this is the morning that we are gathered together to honor the extraordinary generosity of Kmart to make our dream possible. One day we will be successful. We together will find the answers. We will solve the problem of preterm birth, and it will be because Kmart has been at our side every step of the way. So thank you from the bottom of all of our hearts for the extraordinary work that you all do. Now, you know our work is not finished yet in prematurity. You know that there are still many causes that we need to identify. There's a lot of research that we need to fund. We don't need just one transdisciplinary center. We need at least 5 transdisciplinary centers in our country that will form a network of collaboration. So we need to continue to raise funds, to do our work, and to engage the very best scientists. And to help us remember why it is so important that we continue our work, it is my great pleasure to introduce to you all this morning a mom. You can stand up, Mom. A mom, Christina Manganello, who's a mom of premature twins. And her husband is there, and her mom is here, and she can introduce them, but most importantly, she can introduce those 2 adorable Luke and Hunter babies. And it's a perfect name for being here at Hunter. And we would like very, very much to have the privilege of hearing from you firsthand about why preterm birth matters, why it's so important, and why you care so deeply that the work continues. Let's give her a big hand.